Hello all, welcome to the video lecture to learn about what are the different security attacks. Security attacks are the different aspects of security. Security mechanism is another aspect of security. Security services is another aspect of security. So under OSI, we do have different aspects of security for which we have to learn the three different aspects of information security, which are security attack, security mechanism, and security services. So to begin with the security attack, we can define it as any action that compromises the security of the information owned by an organization. See, all the organizations do have their security protocols, all the organizations do have their security measures. And if anybody does any action to breach into those set of protocols, to breach into those security rules, which compromises the security of that particular information which is owned by an organization, that act of compromising the security of information owned by an organization can be considered as a security attack. Information security is about how to provide the preventive measures, how to provide the data for preventing the attack, or how to provide the different methodologies to prevent the attacks or to detect that attack which has happened, so that we will make our system that much stronger, so that in future such type of the attacks shouldn't happen again. We should detect the vulnerability of our system because of which the attack has happened. So what are the lacunas into our system which are making the system attack prone? Those things should be detected. So the information security completely deals with the preventive measures of preventing, detecting the attack for the information based systems. We often consider the threat and attack are the same things, but it is not. In the previous lecture only, I told you that the three things, that is vulnerability, threat, and an attack, all are the interrelated. But the threat and the attack both are different terminologies. An attack happens because of the threat, and threat happens because there is the vulnerability into your system which is making your system a threat prone for the attack to happen. So threat and attack are two different terms having the different meaning, but frequently or very usually we can say that these two terms are considered as to have the same meaning, but they don't have. There are different wide ranges of the attacks present in the world to breach the security of the network, to breach the security of your organization, to breach the security of your systems. Broadly, we can classify the attacks, or we can broadly classify the security attacks into two types. Those are considered as the generic type of the security attacks. First one is the passive attack, and second one is the active attack. Now this is the diagrammatic representation of the passive attack, wherein you can see that two members, Bob and Alice, are communicating with each other through a communication link over the network. So basically these two are the communicating parties, and they are transferring the data over the network. But what happens in the passive type of an attack? Passive type of an attack is that attack wherein the attack happens, but whoever the attacker is, whoever the intruder is, will not hamper your data, will not do anything with your data, will not modify your data, will not update your data. The attacker will not do anything with your data. The attacker will only read the content of the sender, which the sender has sent for the receiver to receive. So here in this case, we can see that the attacker here is a Dart, which is just reading the content of your data before it is received by the receiver. So the Bob and the Alice, they are connected over the internet, and that communication link is being attacked by the attacker. So here an attempt has made to learn or make use of the information from the system but does not affect the system resources. By eavesdropping on or monitoring of all the transmission just to obtain message content, or even we can say that this type of the attack has happened just to analyze the traffic. Next is the active attack. Here we can see that the Bob and Alice are communicating over the communicating link with the help of the internet and the network. When active type of an attack has happened, here also the attacker is a Dart. Now what happens in the active attack is, here the attacker is capturing the messages which are being sent by the Bob for the Alice, and after capturing the messages, now the Dart is replying to the Alice. So in this case, attack has happened, the complete information has been captured by the attacker, and now attacker is replying to the receiver. Attacker is replying to the Alice on behalf of the Bob. But Alice is under impression that whatever the data he or she is receiving is being received or is being sent by the Bob only. Neither Bob nor Alice is aware about this active attack has happened. Whatever the data is received by the Alice is being sent by the Dart, but Alice is under impression that this data is being sent by the Bob for me. It is the possibility that Dart must have captured the data, Dart must have updated the data, Dart must have deleted some of the contents of the data which is being sent by the Bob for the Alice. It may happen. So in this particular type of an attack, which is called as the active attack, here the attacker is in a position to update, modify, delete, anything that attacker can do with your contents which you have sent for the receiver. We will see what are the different types of the passive attacks. The two types of the passive attacks are, first one is the release of content, and the second one is traffic analysis. Now what basically the release of content is? We can take an example of a telephonic conversation or an electronic mail message or a transferred file which may contain sensitive or confidential information, and we would like to prevent an opponent from learning the contents of these transmission. So basically a passive attack attempts to learn or make use of the information from the system but does not affect system resources. Passive attack are in nature of eavesdropping or monitoring of the transmission, and the goal of the opponent is just to obtain the information which is being transmitted. Next is traffic analysis. Here in traffic analysis, what the opponent does is the opponent could determine the location and identity of the communicating host and could observe the frequency and the length of messages which are being exchanged among them. This information might be then useful in guessing the nature of the communication that was taking place in between the two communicating parties. So these are the two types of the passive attacks. These are the different types of the active attacks. They are of 5 different types. First one is the masquerading. Second is modification of message. Third is repudiation, replay, and the denial of service. Now, what basically the masquerading is? Masquerade attack takes place when one entity pretends to be a different entity. A masquerade attack involves one of the different form of the active attacks, wherein generally the third person pretends to be the first person. That means an unauthenticated person can sometimes also pretend to be the authenticated person to transmit the messages. Second is modification of message. In this type of attack, some portion of a message is altered, or that message is delayed or reordered to produce an unauthorized effect. If we take an example, a message meaning allow John to read confidential file X can be modified as allow Smith to read confidential file X. Next is repudiation. This attack is done by either sender or receiver. The sender or receiver can deny later that he has sent or received a message. For example, suppose a customer has his bank, or the customer asks his bank to transfer an amount to someone. If Alice has asked the bank to transfer amount to Bob, and instead of Bob, the bank has transferred amount to Dart. That means an attack has happened. Some third party has done the repudiation, and some third party has sent a message to the bank that instead of the Bob, the money has to be sent to the Dart. So that is the repudiation. Replay. It involves the passive capture of a message and its subsequent the transmission to product or to produce an unauthorized effect. Last is the denial of service attack. In this type of the attack, it generally prevents normal use of communication facilities. This attack may have a specific target. For example, an entity may suppress all messages directed to a particular destination. Another form of service denial is the disruption of an entire network, whether by disabling the network or by overloading it by messages so as to degrade the performance of the network, to degrade the performance of the communicating links. So this was all about the different aspects of security services, wherein we learn the two generic types of the attacks, that is active and passive attacks, and their subtypes. Hope you must have understood it. Thank you.